These are like three parts that you have to understand for a question. If you don't understand how a question is made up, you won't be able to answer it. So till your generation, until my generation, like at max till my generation, people knew how to Google. Googling
Yeah.
is a skill.
Hello, I'm Dustin PolyInnovator. Today I'm welcoming back Puranjay Savar Mattas on the Polymath PolyCast. Thank you for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me, Dustin. It's been a pleasure with having you over the years with me.
Yeah, and I remember our first interview was kind of confusing because I think I was trying to talk to your grandmother, and then I also didn't know if I was talking to you and or her, and it was one of those things where we ended up having like a really great conversation, talking about self development, and this was before you went to college too, and so or like maybe the first year or something like that, because I think you were like 19, I think, on the first call.
I was 18 and I just finished high school, so yeah.
Well, and that's the perfect kind of example of why I like doing this round two polycast, because when I talk to you the first time, we get to explore your multidisciplinary life. Even when you're young, there's still that kind of potential of being like polymathic and doing a lot of different things. And then by having you on round two, we get to see how your life has changed since you came on last. And there's been so much. So
A
you're a
lot,
software engineer, tech enthusiast, researcher, AI and machine learning thought leader.
a lot of.
So a lot of things, yeah. Welcome to the Polymath Polycast, highlighting your multidisciplinary life, showcasing that it's okay to do many different things. First off, the way I like to start this newer show is like just to ask, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for asking that. I just finished. So last time we talked, I just finished my high school. Maybe 10 days ago, I just finished my master's. So,
That's crazy. Oh,
so,
congrats on that too.
so it's been
Well,
5 years.
talk about timing. Well, that's
Oh,
so weird
four
to me because
years. Four
4 years, yeah,
years.
because 2020, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What have you been doing since the last time you came on the show? Obviously, you've gone to school, but what's been all the highlight reels?
So the highlight reels would be I did my bachelor's in computer science, and then I shifted from India to Ireland to complete my master's here in in Athlone. It's like a city here in Ireland. It's been pretty good. The weather is a little bit rainy, but other than that, it's a good city to live in. Amazing people. There have been so many things that I have learned here from people. Like one day I was walking at 3 a.m. in the morning from a club or something, okay, back to my place. And this random dude on the street, okay, that's dead night, okay, 3 a.m. in the morning. This random dude waved up to me and said, "Hi." And it's like, what does this dude want from me? Is he gonna rob me, mug me, or something? But that was just the nature of people here, that they just randomly on the spot say hello to you, hi to you, or just nod away and move along their day. So it was just a little bit trippy because in India we usually like mind our own business. We don't care about the other person moving beside us. We just are like, okay, this person is crossing by. I don't have to acknowledge that person. Just move
Yeah,
along, have my day. So it was a new experience. People are very lovely here. They are happy. They are enjoying their life. They don't care about things a lot. They just YOLO. You only live once.
yeah.
They're in the kind of that nature. I did a
That
lot of
culture shock is surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a lot of biking, so I figured out like biking when high school finished. So turned 18, got my license, and did a lot of biking. I ran with like group of almost 200 people in a group.
Wow.
So like the whole biker group we had, like, amazing.
That's really awesome. It makes me think kind of like in the United States, for example, there's so many differences between a lot of the states. I'm sure India is actually the same way too, because there's so many different states. But like you go
Yeah.
to one state and it can be completely different. I grew up in the Midwest, and so there is this kind of cultural norm where you say hi to people, you ask how they're doing. If you see someone you recognize in the store, you end up talking to them for like 30 minutes. So it's like it's that friendly culture like in Ireland. But then there's you go to some other states and like in India, you just mind your own business. You look forward, you don't look them in the eyes. You
Yeah.
look them in the eyes too long, they stab you or something like that. Like maybe not like
It's
India,
in
but like you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's mostly in the cities. So the major metropolitan cities, you mind your own business. But the towns, if you go to the local towns or something, everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
Like almost everyone there are familiar with each and every person. They know their grandfathers, their fathers. Like, oh my God.
How's your granddaddy doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually how it turns up. Because if you go to my village, right, where I'm originally from in India, people know my grandfather, my great grandfather, and my father, and then my mother, like
Hmm.
the whole family. They don't know my whole family still, recognize me, my face. And I have not seen those people, but they know me.
It is kind of funny how small the world is sometimes too.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of AI, computer science, machine learning in your background. What got you interested in those different topics there, or similar topics, I guess you could say?
So what got me into this was hunger for data. So each and everything can tell you a lot about a person. Even let's say I don't know you as a person, but if I look at your data, I would know what kind of a person you are, because the data is like, in today's day, data is, money is not like actual currency. Data is the currency right now. All the big AI companies now are looking forward to getting data from all the people. But companies like Google and Facebook have been on this for a very long time, where they take your data and give you free services, and they make money through that. So
Hmm.
so getting to know all data science stuff. So there are like three streams, to be very specific. I don't know if you should go into that, but there's like data science, there's AI/ML, and there is like specific large language, like big data set models. Okay, the data science is like how you manipulate data, how you understand data, and how you know, because all the data is not relevant for us. So if you are using it for a specific use case, you have to clean the data. You have to make sure you don't have stuff that would, like, you know, trigger your model to go haywire.
Yeah, or like slow down the processing too. I feel like if you have this a whole
Yeah,
bunch of extra data that's like, let's say you have a data sheet and you only need the first two columns, the rest of it's just unnecessary for what you're doing.
yeah,
All that extra data that's on there is going to slow down your processing. So you're trying to actually use it.
exactly. And then comes AI and ML. So interestingly, people don't know that AI and ML are completely different things. For people who don't know, AI is artificial intelligence and ML is machine learning. Machine learning is where you give data to your model, the data finds connections between it, the the model finds connection between the data and the differences of what. So there are like four variables, what each of the variable change means for the output. That's what the machine learning models would find. AI, on the other hand, will understand the data and make new data.
Mm.
So make new connections out of it. So if it thinks these four columns might have something in common, it would trigger a fifth column most probably and be like, okay, this is like the formula of what change will what do what. So that's what companies are doing right now. They are focusing more on AI rather than ML models.
Right.
And then we have large language models, which are your ChatGPT, your Gemini, which was
Mm.
previously known as, I don't remember the name of it,
Bard.
Bard. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bard. And then we have like Copilot and
Mhm.
a lot of other models,
Llama, stuff like
Perplexity,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Llama AI and Perplexity AI and a lot of other models, Black Box AI. There are a lot of models. There are specific models for specific things also. Like Black Box is for coding only. So
Mm.
if you are a coder, you probably just give it a sentence. I want to make this thing. It would probably give you the code. Not
Right.
updated as frequently, but it's a good tool for a start of a project.
It's interesting. I'm glad you explained it too for people who don't understand. I don't really fully understand myself, and I've tried to actually keep up with a lot of this world, and that's one reason why I like having the show, like talking to people who are smarter than me.
Yeah,
It helps bring you up a bit more too. There was a story about how Bill Gates, when he has a problem, he'll get people, a room full of people, like, 30 people of different fields, multiple different kinds of fields, and they're all smarter than him, and he's already really smart, and he's sitting there just trying to absorb it all. So he'll get experts in AI and machine learning, he'll get experts in data science, but then he'll also get experts in, biology, he'll get experts in geology, and then some other random field like philosophy even. And that way he has that cross-disciplinary knowledge. And I feel like there's a couple different ways we could take this call today too. And the last time we talked a little bit about knowledge management tools, because at the time that we had chatted, not on the show, but just our personal chat,
yeah.
I was really struggling to find a knowledge management tool. And I think that in particular, not AI, but machine learning with knowledge management would be a unique combination. We haven't really seen it too much. I know that Google released their notebook recently, which might be
Notebook
kind
LM.
of, yeah, might be
It's
kind
available
of
in the
along those
US
lines.
right now, if I'm not wrong.
I think so. I remember seeing it came out, but the thing is, I don't know how well it would work for the use case that I'm talking about. But there's also situations too where it's like ChatGPT is a generalist, not a specialist. And while we need more specialist tools out there, I think we should also take that and push it forward too. So there's a lot of companies who are taking ChatGPT and make it into a specialist for their thing, pharmaceuticals or maybe like law, practicing law, that kind of thing. They're making a specialist bot out of it. But I really think it's fascinating to think about. Let's take it from a generalist and make it into a polymath level, like we're talking about, and have that multidisciplinary trans-contextual knowledge.
So the thing that ChatGPT and Gemini are doing differently are very interesting. Like it's a whole conversation in itself what
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT and Google is doing with their tool Gemini. If you go and see Gemini right now, um, most people would not actually use Gemini because ChatGPT has become a household name now. Like, and the people are using it as search engines, which is not good.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah.
strongly recommend against using ChatGPT or even Gemini for that matter of using them as search engines because those need to get updated. If you see ChatGPT, the free version 3.5, I think it's the free version. And if you use that, it's updated to 2022 or 2023 at max, if
Yeah.
I'm not wrong.
I think I could
Because
have sworn it was 21, but yeah, I think 22 is what I last heard too.
yeah, ChatGPT 3 was 2021 and ChatGPT 3.5 I think is 2022 or 2023, which is not a good look on when you are trying to find information. So let's say if there is something new that's happening, maybe news that you want to read about in your
Right.
area, people are using it as like general search engines, which is at the basic level would not be able to give you any information about that. And the problem is that it would hallucinate. It would give
Mhm.
you false information with so much confidence that you would believe it. That's the problem right there, the keyword hallucination.
Yes.
The AI models right now are hallucinating so much that it's a big problem. So I would suggest that rather than using ChatGPT, if you really want to use a search engine like a search engine bot, try Gemini because Gemini has a Google button right near the end of the response. Okay, and if you click it, it would go through the Google feed. Okay, or for your response specifically, it would make it keywordy and like go through the Google search and would actually highlight of what it found resources for and what it cannot verify. So that's actually a better to double check your resources of what it's finding. And Gemini being a Google product, of course, it can refer Google as a search engine easily and like find
Yeah.
information easily because they can optimize it for that better. For developers out there, if you're listening to this, Google released aistudio.google.com for you guys. So if you're not familiar with that, that's like a place where us developers want to include chat Gemini in our products. Okay, so we can create like specific Gemini models for us. So if I'm making a document scanning app, okay, and I want Gemini based search engine for a documents, okay. So if you're having a document and you want to like ask questions your chatbot for the
Mhm.
specific document, we can use aistudio.google.com to make a proper chatbot for that specific reason. So that has access to the preview of chat Gemini 1.5 Pro and 1.5 Flash, which is way more advanced than the version that we are getting right now, the Gemini 1.0. Yeah. Even if you go through the AI Studio, you'll actually realize how big of a leap they have taken in from the first version to 1.5 version and the Pro and the Flash versions. It's too much detail if you go to the specific versioning of it, but the context windows, that's one of the biggest things that people are struggling, like the chatbots are struggling with. Right now, the Gemini takes like I think 1 million tokens, and now they're shifted to 2 million tokens. And I think ChatGPT is not even close to that right now, which is amazing. Like that they
It's
can take so much context.
take in so much context, yeah. And just on top of that too, you were talking about the use case of it. Like you shouldn't use it as a search engine. And I kind
Yeah.
of wanted to touch on that more because I have always seen ChatGPT as a way to expand upon ideas. Like, if I had an idea of like I want to use these two JavaScript frameworks, how do they relate, and how can I actually make them work together? And that was one of the first questions I ever asked it, and it came up with a really good response, and it pulled data from the internet, to try to figure out like here's how you would do that. And then things like I was working on a video game last year, and I was able to actually, you know, expand upon the ideas I'd already generated myself and flesh out the story, flesh out the ideas that would have taken me longer to figure out myself. While it's not really taking the place of it, it's just helping me accelerate what I'm doing. I feel like using really any bot like that, like ChatGPT, as an accelerator, not necessarily a replacement for anything.
So on that context, if you see, you used it to solve a problem rather than to search. Searching for something and trying to find a solution for something are way two different things. If you're searching for something, a person would search for multiple things. Okay, at a
Yeah.
time, he could search for like a location to eat, news, or anything that is happening. You can search for like so. Let's say you are talking about JavaScript, right? So let's say you want to work in React. ChatGPT won't know the latest version of React and how to react, how to actually, what specific functions to use or what specific language to use, because
Right.
iteration by iteration, everything changes a lot. And in coding and development, you have to get updated a lot. For using it to, so I usually use ChatGPT or Gemini to go through logs. So if I'm debugging an application, I need help with that. That is a good thing that you can use it for. If you are writing, let's say you're writing a thesis or a paper, don't use it to write your paper. Use it to maybe check your paper for grammatical mistakes. It's good for that because ChatGPT has learned from all the blogs and everything out there. So it knows what good grammar is. So maybe tell it to flag me if there is wrong grammar anywhere, flag me if I'm explaining something too less and too much. Okay, so these things, ChatGPT, Gemini, good tools. Enjoy, have your fun at it. But search engines, no. The
Mm.
use case for yours was a use case of like finding a solution,
Yeah.
finding solutions with tools like these where recent information is not necessary. That's good. You can use that, but make sure that you verify your answers that you get, because if you're running a command on your machine, you're eventually, if you don't know what that command is doing exactly, you can break your project or you can
Yeah.
harm your machine also. And there are very specific keywords. Even a dot, like a period, can change what a
Yeah.
command is doing on your terminal.
Well, and it just all depends on what you're trying to do. And it's interesting to think about how, again, if you look for solutions in the knowledge management world, like using the tools like we talked about earlier, there's this concept called idea emergence. And by using these tools, let's say you have an article you saved about polymathy, but you have an article you saved about AI. And then for some reason, those two articles have something similar in common. These tools will help you as a person see both of them at the same time, and you can see the similarities, the synergy, or there will be a plugin that'll help do it automatically, like in Roam Research, where it comes up with this new idea of how these two concepts come together. And I think that ChatGPT could be really good for that too if you have the right kind of prompt.
Yeah. So the thing with the AI models right now is you should remember that when you are telling it to give you ideas, these ideas already exist. It's just helping you find these ideas because you see, it can't create new things. All of these models right now cannot generate new ideas out of themselves. If an idea already exists in a world, it can mix and match and give you something new. It's basically paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's on the basic level. It's just paraphrasing. If it goes through a bunch of things that it knows and it paraphrases it into something that you can understand.
It's interesting because you're saying it's paraphrasing, and really in society there are no new ideas anymore at this point because we've already thought about it. What's the difference is two people will have the same idea, but how do you execute on that idea is the difference. And so
Exactly.
even though it's basically giving you repeated ideas, you might be the new person that actually executes on it better than the previous person.
Yeah. For like idea management, it is a good thing.
Mhm.
For creating new ideas, please think of your own because
Yeah.
it won't help you there. On the Notebook LM thing, that's interesting. The Notebook LM thing just recently got highlighted because Gemini actually, like the Google I/O happened and they mentioned Notebook LM a lot. it has been there for over 2 years or 1 year now, approximately. So just people, so if you want to use that labs.google.com, most probably is the URL. You can go there and try out a bunch of new tools that Google has pushed out. There are a lot of tools that are still existing. I think Vue and all of them are there. The notebook LM thing, it's not available outside the US. So even in Europe, living in Europe, I can't use it. But I've heard a lot about that tool, and supposedly it's good for like students and like note management. But it's not a replacement for a knowledge management tool, so per se.
Like Obsidian,
Like,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, because it doesn't have that functionality right now.
Okay,
But
makes
it's
sense.
using, yeah, but it's using Gemini, I think, in the back, so it's kind of good.
Where do you think the future of AI is going?
Right now, the AI race is going too fast. People are not realizing how fast it is because Google, OpenAI, and the other companies out there are just pushing out, just pushing out and figuring out later of what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so
The hell with the
uh,
consequences. So
not even to that sense. Okay, so let's take an example. There's this creator MKBHD, if you've heard about him. He's a very well-known creator in the tech space. He
he's the
has a
number one
pod,
creator in the tech space.
yeah. So he has a podcast waveform. If you have listened to it, so I think it was the Google I/O episode that they did
Mhm.
last Friday that they released, and he mentioned a very interesting thing. The Google engineers, they're really smart. There's no
Mhm.
doubt about it. The OpenAI engineers, the Google engineers, they're really smart. But if you see the examples that they give you on stage are so dumbed down, okay, so much so dumbed down, just because of the fact that they don't want to, show to the world like, okay, this is what it can do actually. Like there was an example of using Notebook LM or some AI to solve a math problem for a developer's child. I don't remember the exact conversation it had, but it was such a dumbed down version of what the actual use case of that thing could be. So Google as a company is like huge. Okay, if
Yeah.
they do something wrong, people are gonna notice. They did do something wrong with this AI, and people did notice, and they had to pull back that feature. If you remember the whole Gemini fiasco when they released, so when they released Gemini, after a while they released creating images using Gemini. Okay, so
Oh
you could
no.
just say create me an image or like generate an image. That was like the key. Okay, so generate an image and just describe what the image should be. Okay, and it would generate image, and it was so bad, and it was generating such horrific images that Google had to basically like pull out that feature instantly in like matter of days or hours, because it made a ruckus on the internet. People were creating such bad images, and it was not filtered, so
Mhm.
you could create almost any image you want. It was not filtered at all. There was no filter. There were no
Safer work
there,
stuff and
there was no wall in between of what you can create almost.
and humanity is a little bit like there's a bit of depravity
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. So they had to pull that feature out. So now if you even write something about an image also, okay, it would just say, sorry, I cannot generate any images. I was working on a master's thesis project, which is photorealistic AI generation. Okay, so it generates photorealistic faces using AI, machine learning to be specific, not AI. Sorry. And I was asking it to paraphrase a paragraph. Okay, because it was having too much plagiarism. So I was like, okay, let's rephrase it. Let's use AI to see how well it can rephrase it. Okay, and I gave it that paragraph. That paragraph had nothing to do with image generation, but due to it having image generation and faces and all of that keywords inside of it, it just said, sorry, I cannot generate any images. It just straight up said no to me. And every time I pinged it, even in a new prompt or after that prompt, I wrote, okay, paraphrase it for me. No, I cannot generate any images. I cannot. Just straight up say no to anything related to any images. But the tools that Google are releasing are really good. Like Circle to Search, I have it on my phone right now. Circle to Search. I don't have a Pixel. I just use custom ROMs. I develop and AOSP Android. So so I make my own Android basically. So I have Circle to Search. It's good, but it's missing the. Have you used Google Lens?
Yeah, yeah.
Just imagine just that you crop a section of your screen and give it to Google Lens. It won't really do that much with it, correct? So if you give it like a product photo, it would probably find it on Amazon or something, or like find random Chinese websites that you can buy it out of. So
Timu.
it's exactly. So that's what it's doing right now. So you like the Circle to Search, it's the Magic Eraser and everything else out there. I've been using all of these features for a while since they have been out there. These features are good, but what are you gonna really do use it for? Maybe once in a year, you'll probably remove a picture frame from the background
Yeah.
or something like that.
I don't know. I feel like that's a good question to ask. Like, what can we use it for?
These tools are really powerful, but we don't have a use case right now. Maybe in like 2, 3 years or 1 year, even because of the pace that AI is moving at, we're
Yeah.
gonna have something to do with it. Right now, it's just out there. People can do anything. Even Vimeo, I think OpenAI's tool was Sora that they released. You know, the US government actually had to stop them from releasing it till the time elections were over.
Yeah, because they were worried about deepfakes.
Exactly. And MKBHD, I think, did a video about Sora and how good it was. You can still find the little artifacts that were like bad that could tell that it was AI generated, but man, it was good.
Hmm.
Even Vio, we have not tried it yet, but probably it is good. Google has a lot of data, believe me.
Yeah. I'm interested about a lot of that, especially since there, as a content creator, I don't see that's actually an interesting topic to talk to you about as well. There's a lot of content creators, graphics designers, and even just artists too, who are worried about because being a content creator is also a type of artist. They're worried about AI taking their jobs and replacing them, that kind of thing. And it's not going to happen. People using AI might and probably will, especially since like there was this really viral story that went out. There was like this low tier like gaming news website that decided to lay off its staff, and then they had or maybe they didn't lay them off yet, but they had a job posting where they would hire one person to write 40 AI articles a week or something like that, or 10 AI articles a day, or something crazy. And it's
So,
like that kind of makes
problem,
sense though.
yeah. So the problem with this stuff right now is there's gonna come a time where all the articles out there are gonna be AI generated, most probably, and what the other AI that is training out of that is going to train on what AI has generated.
Oh, I mean that's a whole nother topic right there where it's like training on AI, and that's not good. Yeah,
Exactly. So AI training on AI will just mess things up. It would just retrain itself. It won't generate anything new out of it. The thing with people have to understand is these things are not going to take your jobs most probably, even if it is like the simplest of the jobs. AI will not be able to replace your jobs, but there's a big catch here that AI will probably be like, okay, when a job was done by 4 people, it could probably now be done by 2 people or one person only with like AI tools at its disposal. So maybe Photoshop has this generative fill right now.
yeah.
So probably a person who was a graphic designer before who was supposed to do this designing of the outside if you want to crop out of your image, now you can just do that. So rather than having two graphic designers, they would have just one graphic designer who has knowledge to work with AI. Before that it was prompt engineering, now it would be AI prompt engineering.
Yeah.
How do you There's an artist out there actually who there I don't remember his name. He just uses AI to create artwork,
Mhm.
and it's selling like hotcakes.
Well, and if you prompt it well, like prompt engineering is so unique, you had to, it's a skill in itself, and if you know how to do it, that is a form of creativity itself too. And I don't think a lot of people
Yeah.
understand that.
So till your generation, until my generation, like at max till my generation, people knew how to Google. Googling
Yeah.
is a skill.
Yeah.
Okay, there are It's known as prompt engineering, by the way. It's a proper skill. It's a job for some people that they know how to Google.
I mean, like when I have guests on the show, I have to Google really well. Like that's one thing. Like I don't know how I developed that skill over the years. I just go down so many rabbit holes, and I eventually got it by doing so many rabbit holes. But I got to the point where when I started doing interviews, that was one of my best features as a host, has been being able to just Google really well of my guests and finding like, you go through the images and you go down page a couple different pages, and there'll be one image that links to a page where that link is nowhere else, basically. And knowing how to find that one link where it's like, okay, this is the article about my guest, and they talk about their hero or they talk about some event that happened to them in the past. They didn't talk
Yeah,
about that event anywhere else, and now I can create a question based off of that answer on that
exactly.
article, and that's all coming down to research of.
The best things that you can do if you're searching for a person is just image search.
Yeah, I love
That's
imagery.
that's probably the best way to search for a person, because there is one friend of mine who I don't have any social connections with, like actual friend, people go out with.
Yeah.
Because this people nowadays don't know that we go out with friends. We don't usually talk to them on social media or something. So I don't have any connections to that friend. And when you do a search for her name, my LinkedIn profile shows up in the images.
It's funny. It's funny, actually. You know what's kind of weird? I guess because since your online presence is a bit limited, it just has like you have your GitHub and your LinkedIn and basically Matchmaker. I was searching for you, and what's really interesting is that your original interview on this show came up, you know, but then other interviews of my show came up when I searched your name, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, that's just Google
It's
trying to
like,
reference things.
yeah,
Google is really smart.
but that's why I brought it up because I thought that was just really curious. Like I was searching for you in particular, but other people of my, I think some of them were actually pretty related topic wise, but it was just interesting.
Google does this like branching thing that branches out results. So if there is one result matching to me from your end, and by the way, Google searches differ from person to person. If you do that same search, exact same search from an incognito tab on Google, it would give you completely different results. If you
Mm.
turn off your location, it would give you completely different results. Use another
That's good.
Gmail, it would give you completely different results.
Well, I definitely noticed that on YouTube. I have a few different YouTube channels, and I've searched stuff on there, and like the actual feed is different. That's really interesting to think about because one thing, this is just me going on a tangent, but I looked for polymath, generalist, jack of all trades, multi-potentialite. I used these keywords, and I did it on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. And I looked at their web search results, the image search results, and news articles, maybe also videos too. I went through all four different tabs because like when you go to different ones, you get different results. And I had maybe like 600 tabs open at that point because I was doing a really deep dive on these terms. And I was trying to find all the content that was made around these topics because then I could write about it on my website or find ways to like do stuff. At that point, I was actually making a series based on those keywords. But now that you're talking about using AI to search and actually using like the incognito browser, I might have to do that endeavor again, just to like
Yeah.
see what I can come up with without it using my own personal data as a filter.
And if you want even more things to do to search even better, what you can do is on Windows and even on Mac, you can create a guest mode of the login user. So if you have a login user, you can just log out of your user and go to a guest mode. Download Chrome there. Oh, leave Chrome. Download Firefox there. Okay, and just search yourself. Don't log into anything. Just search there. That's the best search you will do ever,
Mm.
because it would show you unfiltered result. And do turn off safe search. Okay, that's the best search you're gonna do, because that will show you true results of what the actual Google page should search for. So that's no filters whatsoever. You'll find each and everything about whatever you were trying to find. That's
Okay,
the
cool.
that's the most convenient way to search for, because that's what I do. I have a different laptop or a computer that I'll probably log into a guest, okay, and
Mm.
just search. And what I'll do is I'll probably, if I don't want to like send myself those, what do you call, the links and everything, I'll probably open another tab and log into my Notion or something, or like a WhatsApp just temporarily. Or best thing you can do is Telegram. Log into Telegram web, and just send yourself the links and just close it again.
Or, this is me being biased, I moved off of Notion because of all the issues with it and a lot of different things going on. Obsidian. There's an Obsidian plugin that I absolutely love called Read It Later, and it allows you to save articles instantly, for one, and it pulls the entire data off. And of course, you could use a scraper tool, and you're obviously knowledgeable enough to even program your own scraper tool. But
I
this is
have a
just so
lot of them.
convenient. Yeah, this is so convenient though, and it saves the article based on the parameters you want. So you have a specific folder, it saves the assets to a specific folder, and it just makes things really easy. And then when you have it all in Obsidian, it can all link together. You can tag it, and you can search based on the tags. And I just think that might be helpful to you because it's more
Yeah,
searchable than Notion is. Notion has a pretty confined system
yeah. That's
running.
true. Even I use Notion like less now because of all the things that I do. Most of the things I actually do through email and
Mhm.
maybe like Telegram, so that I'm pretty logged up out of the system. There is a good video series that Linus Tech Tips just started yesterday or day before yesterday. It's De-Google Your Life.
Yeah, I saw that thumbnail.
I saw that video yesterday night, I think, and I went through the whole video, and it's like a 30-minute long video approximately. But it shows you how much tracking Google does. So even if you're not using any Google apps whatsoever, you're probably looking up on the websites that you are looking up onto. They are using a DNS. So when you type in www.google.com, that google.com has to go somewhere. So it goes to a DNS, which is a domain.
So you started a podcast since the last time I talked to you, Chai Chat Chronicles (CCC).
Yeah.
How is that going?
It's been on a halt right now because of the masters. I had my final year exams and everything, so it's been a halt. I'm probably gonna start it again to continue with the interviews and everything. I have a lot of people lined up again, so I have to continue with the whole interviews and everything. Then I'm gonna release the first season of it. So it's been quite tiring with that also. Um,
You had
a
me on,
lot
for
of
example, too, so I understand.
yeah, yeah, because I had you and a lot of guests. I have like 8 or 9 episodes recorded and edited. It's just a matter of sending them out there, but I couldn't because of I have to complete the whole season of it.
Do you have to though?
Yeah, I want to complete like a whole season. I want to record it season by season because it's not a time managed series. So it's not a time, what do you call it? It's not a time constrained or like a time relevant. It's not time relevant series. So it doesn't matter when I release it. It's the matter of when I actually get time to release all the episodes. So I'll probably release it like one episode a week so
Yeah,
that people have time to go through it. But I want to complete the whole season before I do release it because I don't
that's
know
why I
when
was
I'll more
asking.
get time.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking you though, because it's a not a difference in philosophy. It's just an understanding of philosophy when it comes to content creation. Because consistency is key. That's how you grow on any platform. And we could talk about your podcast platform host, for example, too. We could talk like just nerd out on tools if you want. But it's interesting to think about like if you schedule them all out right now, that's 9 weeks that you can then have time to record another episode, then another episode. And of course, there's that extra stress of like, okay, now I don't have enough for my season. Do you know how many episodes you want per season?
15.
15. So then there's only like what, 6 more that you can do. And then
Yeah.
you get started now, you post it out now, and that way you get it started sooner. And then by the time you get done, relaxing from having your just finished your degree, you'll be like, okay, I'm more refreshed now. It's been 3 weeks. I can record a couple more episodes. Then now you have 11. A couple weeks later, you record a couple more. And so you just kind of spread it out over time instead of having to just wait till it's all at once. Again, your content's evergreen, like you're saying, so it doesn't really matter when you put it
Yeah.
out. But I was just thinking, like, strategy wise.
Yeah. So strategy wise, yeah, of course, putting even I can even put it out like right now. They're all edited. They're all perfectly like ready to go. It's just a matter of I'm thinking of when to exactly complete. Like I have to complete the whole season, so I have to figure out how do I plan out the rest of the episodes, and
Mm.
then I'm gonna find a timeline, a good date to start the episodes from rolling out. And even we have the trailer. We didn't even push out the trailer just because of this fact that we didn't
Mm.
want to push out the trailer. Because if we push out the trailer, then all the podcast streaming sites will be like, okay, the podcast is coming and something like that. We don't want that right now. We want to keep it like low key till the point we are ready to launch the seasons, because there are a lot of things that even during editing I have to listen to like the episode 3 or 4 times, because we are talking about like psychological things, mental health, and a lot of content that can be explicit in nature. Okay, and when you're releasing that those things out in public, you have to make sure that you don't hurt people's feelings. You don't, you know, even if you call somebody mentally retarded, that's not cool anymore.
Yes,
It was it is what it wasn't cool anytime, but people have started noticing these things. You can't call him mentally ill or something like that. Mentally retarded is not a good term for a person who is in that condition. And having a person who is the main host as the psychological, who has the psychological masters in that area, knows these differences, and have to make sure that each and every episode aligns with the theme. So we don't have an actual theme, we just do unfiltered conversations. But how unfiltered can you go mainstream
yeah.
is
Well,
the
I mean, Joe
question.
Rogan kind of, is a prime example where he's pretty damn near unfiltered, and he's one of the biggest podcasters. But he also had he was already famous when he started his show too, and it's just one of those things where my mindset, like, I'm trying not to be overly opinionated about your own show. Like, it's
Yeah,
your show. I'm not going to be doing things like that. I'm just trying to share what I've learned, because I've talked to a lot of big creators, and I've also learned from a lot of big creators. And what some of the philosophy is, you have to get the reps in, right? You have to put in like 100 reps before you really know what you're doing. And with interviews, it's really hard. So like that's why I like doing solo cast alongside the interviews, because then I can have more reps of like, here's how I make a podcast. It's kind of like 100 reps total of all podcast episodes, but then 100 interviews and 100 solo episodes. Those 100 reps, once you get to that 100, you start to realize, okay, I can edit in a new way. I can redo my interviews in a new way. You just learn more from your own doing it. And you can't really progress until you get to that 100 reps, is what's really frustrating. And
yeah,
I'm
that's
saying
true.
that in my own case, where I'm like, I'm at 140 interviews at this point. I'm like, I'm only just started recently progressing.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing about like podcasts and even any content creation is you have
Yeah.
to put in the time. That's the main thing. People think that, oh, you just have to turn on your camera, you just set up a mic and put on earphones or headphones and you're ready to go. It's not about it. It's about the research you do before you turn on that camera, before you start to
Right.
speak and all of that. So it's the matter of like when you go ahead and push all through.
Mhm.
Before you push all through, you have to put in your work, put in your research.
It's like with the show, I try to make sure I do research for my guests. Part of my motivation behind that is how it's how I've always been. I always like to do a ton of research before making content. If I have a specific thing I need to talk about, I need to make sure I'm talking correctly on the facts and stuff like that. But even on a guest, I want to make sure that if you come on the show, I'm not going to be saying anything that's like, okay, I don't understand what they do, or I don't know who they are, kind of thing. That's like, I'm not going to sit there and just be like, okay, who are you? I want to actually have some history. And then if I do ask, who are you, I can ask probing questions based on what I already know. But even more on that, Lewis Howes, who is a really big podcaster, he had a really important piece of content that I learned from. And the way he explained it is like the pre show is the show. How you prepare for the show actually makes it better. And he was talking to the late Kobe Bryant, and he prepared in such a way, like he asked about some kind of like basketball game, something like that, or some kind of skill that he hadn't really talked about much. I think it was actually like he was talking about like football or something like that. And basically, Kobe Bryant was super busy, super busy, super busy. He finally had a time to meet with Lewis Howes, and they had like a 2 minute like meeting before the call. Like they were in person too, mind you, before the recording. And basically, in that case, Kobe Bryant's manager was like, "You have like 15 minutes. That's it. Don't go longer than that. That's all you get." And then, Lewis is like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then he asked like a probing question based off of some kind of deep knowledge that we kind of talked about earlier. Like he found out a special detail, and that kind of showed to Kobe that like, okay, this guy really does care about who I am. Like wants to talk to me deeply. And so when they actually sat down for the call, like you have as long as you want, take as long as you want, like ask me whatever you want. And it's because that he did that research that content was then way more powerful, and he actually had a full length episode with that too.
even what you see, like unfiltered content, or like
Mhm.
people putting out just vlogs or something, which are like not edited properly. Even those things have so much thought behind how to frame the camera and how to push your personality through a two-dimensional video. So your podcast is not only about like how you talk to people; it's about who you are and what you present to the public.
Yeah.
I can do the same thing that you can, but I won't have that personality that you push out through the camera. So even our show, exactly, even our show is like that only. Like I have to make sure that I am not the key person that we are talking about. I have to focus on the other person and I have to show what they are all about. I've I took an interview once of a girl. I don't remember her name exactly. I'm very bad with names. Okay, and I literally found out what her favorite pizza is also. Like it
Mm.
was that specific of a research, and I asked her about that in the interview, like in mid interview. I asked her about her pizza choice and something like that, and she had the most amazing expression. I was like, "How did you know that?"
Yeah.
Like, I do my homework.
Yeah.
I have to put in that time. I have like a whole document that I send them. I make sure that even I send that document to you when we did that interview. I send a document with all the questions that I'll probably be asking, and it's not that I'll probably be asking this question. I can link to that question to another question that on the spot, and probably not ask a question which is not relevant to the conversation anymore,
Mhm.
which you have probably answered or something like that. But in the document, if you go little down, there is a section about keynotes about the host. Okay,
There we have
and
a
it
bit about
has
you.
all the information about that person that I find that would be useful. And I
Mhm.
always tell the other person, make sure you go through that information. That's what I know about you. Okay, if you don't want me to speak anything
Okay.
specific about you, make sure you remove it or tell me about it beforehand, because in mid of the interview, if I speak something about you and you're not comfortable with it, it would be really awkward for the other person, and he or she would not open up that much anymore when we are talking. So I make sure that I give like a proper no, keynotes about the guest or the
Mhm.
host or the guest I am bringing on the show.
Puranjay, you impressed me with your level of knowledge as a host because I've been on 70 plus shows, and the way that you are talking about it, you're coming from a place of empathy and understanding of like what it means to be a good host. And one of the like modestly speaking, I knew going in how to be a good host even early on, but I knew that there was a skill I needed to learn. Like I was trying to be mindful about it. Like, okay, you need to get better at this. This is a skill you have to get good at. It wasn't until like 6 interviews in where I realized I needed to change the format of my show or change the intro. It's like you have to put in reps in before you actually know what you're doing. But there was one skill that I knew that I sucked at, and I still need to work on it a little bit too nowadays. And that's active listening, where it's like, shut up and listen. Like if you were talking to me just now and you were talking about how you found the unique pizza, her favorite pizza, or you're talking about having that unique section on your page, those are details that if I was thinking about what I'm going to say to you next, I wouldn't have absorbed it as much when you were just saying it. And so I needed to make sure I shut down what my thoughts are. Like if an idea comes, put it off to the side, listen to what they're saying, and that was something that I knew that I was going to struggle with pretty heavily because I like to talk, as you know. And so, yeah, I just like it's
So
just another lesson.
exactly. So even when you sent me the questions, right? Okay, these are probably the questions that I'm gonna ask you. I didn't. I just gave it a quick read because I didn't want to be prepared. I wanted to be on the spot,
Yeah.
because if I speak on the spot, I won't have any filters. Most probably, I would only speak what I think of first. And listening is a huge skill of it, because when you are asking me a question, I have to make sure that I understand what the keywords are of that question, what I need to answer, and what is asked. These are like three parts that you have to understand for a question. If you don't understand how a question is made up, you won't be
Mhm.
able to answer it. And that's like a skill that you pull up in developing.
Yeah.
If you're a backend developer, there's a thing known as like response body. What's a response and what requests to send. So if you don't do a good request, you won't get a good response. You won't. understand what the context of that response is. So that's like a skill that a developer actually develops, but do not realize until they actually speak to another human beings.
Mhm. And they get that context from what their opinion is. And that's not the reason why I send you the questions ahead of time. I mean, obviously I was a little bit late today, but I send the questions ahead of time so that way you can go through and filter out. I think out of the 140 guests, only like one or two actually said, "Oh, I can't talk about that topic because I have an NDA or something like that." Like, okay, cool. That's why I send it to you ahead of time so we can just cut that out. Or like, "Hey, I don't do that anymore and I don't really want to talk about it because I ended it kind of abruptly." It's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Cut that question out. For the most part, I only send the questions for two reasons. If there's a topic you don't want to talk about, or there's some people who you can't have on the show who are new to podcasting. That it might be their first interview or one of their first interviews, and they're nervous and they want to know what you're actually going to talk about. And just by sending them the questions, they're not going to. Usually, they don't prepare answers, but sometimes they do, and sometimes they want to. Again, like you, I'd much rather have just off the cuff kind of conversations. Don't prepare
Yeah.
answers. But yeah, and just having it as a convenience to the guest. So I always send an email, but I try to send like a social post too, like a LinkedIn message or a Matchmaker message, just so like here's a link, just in case you didn't see the email or the email went to spam or something like that. So I had that issue in the middle of my interview series where for some reason I guess because I was sending so many of the same email, like welcome to the PolyCast, that like I got filtered as spam at one point. I'm like, no. And so people weren't
So
seeing the emails. I got that
like
fixed, but it was just like,
there's like an actual limit to how many emails you should send in a day
yeah,
before Gmail would think that you're a spam.
yeah.
So
And it's like,
I don't remember. I don't remember how many emails it is, but it's a very low number, like maybe like 20 or 30 emails. If you send more
jeez.
than that in a second, like in a day, like it's a pretty low amount. But I've seen a lot of. I've seen my girlfriend's email getting into my spam,
Mm,
which
it's
is just
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. One thing you sent me, I think, was like a Notion doc of the page of the interview preparation, right? I think it was.
Yeah, yeah.
I have
I
like a
converted it into PDF and sent it to you. Yeah.
okay, that's right, that's what it was. And I have a page on my website where it's like Polycast guest, and it has like a little intro video. Here's what the show is like. Here's how the interviews go. I have a few different micro episodes that I've done, like solo episodes that are like, here's how the show works, or here's how I interview guests. And I have those linked in there. I have a couple paragraphs explaining the show, and I just send that to every guest. And most of them may not look at it. That's okay. But the ones who do are going to be more prepared, and it's very helpful. And I think having things like that, like one of my last guests was like, I really appreciated that page because it helped me out a lot. And there was a moment too where like just by having those resources for your guests, it makes it so much easier for them.
Yeah, and that's why the third column of my doc is requirements.
Yeah,
So if any of the guests have ever read those are for their convenience only. Like if you go through that, it's gonna be easier for you,
yeah.
not for me.
Well, like pretty much any tool that you're recording with needs to use Chrome. It's frustrating because Chromium should be just fine, but for some reason, even like Opera or Edge
Well,
doesn't
I'm
work
on
with my.
Arc.
Huh?
I'm on Arc right now.
You're an ARC. That's interesting
Yeah.
because like it's usually I usually insist on using Chrome because it's just one of those things where Riverside, for example, is another tool. They would just like freak out. Like their tool would just freak out if you're on anything but Chrome, especially Firefox, let alone even Chromium. We're on Podcastle right now, and it's been pretty good. We had one issue where I disappeared for a second, but for the most part, like it's been fine. It should work with Chromium, but for some reason they're like, no, move over to Chrome.
Yeah, so there's like things even by the way, most of the tools are gonna go really bad really soon on Chrome also because Chrome is shifting to Manifest version 3.
Mm.
It's gonna spoil all your ad blockers, okay? It's gonna spoil some of the tools that require Chrome or Chromium based browsers because Manifest version 3, according to Google, is gonna help improve privacy and enhance security, which is basically blocking all the ad blockers.
Yeah,
Basically.
and on top of that, too, adding probably more trackers too.
Yeah, so like the tracker thing that I was saying before, right? On DNS, you won't realize how many trackers there are on us right now. Even if you are using a Mac and you're not using Chrome, you still have a lot of trackers on you.
Yeah.
Your Gmail ID is probably the first.
So I have a couple more questions for you before we end up wrapping up, and one of them is talking about. I don't know if it's more of a question or just a topic idea, but there's the main tech companies. You have Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook. And I was talking to one of my clients recently about that. For the first time in my life, I had to make an Apple ID. And I loathe Apple with a passion. I can't stand the products. I don't like using them. And but I have two podcasts, and I want to be of service to my listeners, and I wanted to have my show on Apple. I had this show on Apple, but I moved hosts, and so that kind of confused things. The thing was, Apple made it really hard for me to actually even make an account, but I don't want to get into a tangent there. I still can't even activate my account because they're being stupid. But point is, I did not have an Apple account until this point. I was not in that ecosystem at all. And it's good to not have too many big companies tracking you. At the moment, I have at least four of them now who have my information and are tracking me. And it's interesting to think about, like, what are your thoughts on having accounts with these big companies? Obviously, with Amazon, you want to have packages. You might want to watch Amazon Prime, so people have an Amazon account. If you have a Windows PC or an Xbox, you have a Microsoft account. You and I both like Android, so we have a Google account. So it's like you can't escape all of them. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it.
The best way you can avoid any of these trackers is just use single sign-ons. Okay, if you see on Amazon, obviously Amazon is not going to have sign in with Google option, but if you
Yeah.
find anywhere that you can use your sign in with Google, use that. It's better for you because there are things like single point of failures. Okay, if you, for example, let's say you're logging into some website that uses sign in with Google and you sign in with your account, it won't have your password. It would just have a link to there's like a session token that it generates. So that is generated by Google itself for your Gmail. So it won't have your password. So if a data breach happens to that website and it leaks all of your data, it would probably not have your password. It would have a session token that can be disabled really easily. And the data that is shared can be controlled from your Gmail account settings. Okay. So if you don't want to share your photo, you can turn it off. If you don't want to share your name, date of birth, something like that, because a lot of services do require random amounts of data that you never need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From your Gmail just to keep a track on you. That's the best way you can avoid a lot of stuff. You can use a password manager to generate random passwords. Do not, you please, God, do not use same passwords everywhere. That's the biggest thing that you can do. Turn on two-factor authentication. Best thing you can do. There's a lot of scams going out right now for bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this thing. So a lot of bank accounts do not require you to use OTPs to, make the purchase happen. They'll just need your card details, your CVV. That's it. Your transaction has been done. Try using services that use single-use cards. So in Europe, there's like a app known as Revolut. Okay, I don't know if it's available in the US or not. It's not available in India.
Okay.
So what it does, it generates a single-use card. Okay, even for Amazon it works. Any subscription sites, best thing. Use a single if you are just using it for that trial period. Use that
Yeah.
single-use card so that you don't forget to cancel that subscription. And you can set that expiry date. Okay, expire on this day or this something like that.
Yeah.
Most of the sites now are catching up to it and they are like, okay, this is a single use card. We know this is a single use card. You can't use it for a subscription. Like LinkedIn, for example, if you buy LinkedIn Premium from a single use card, it would say no. So
Well,
that's
I think
that's
that brings
kind
up
of
a good point, though. Using single-use cards, obviously use a password manager. I need to probably get more on that myself. I haven't used one in a while, and I need to probably actually update it and actually use it. But point is, using single-use cards, there's actually some tools for like single-use emails too, which I think would be kind of
yeah.
useful in some
So
cases.
Proton email is the best one if you want to use, and if you have Apple ID, you can use. There's a setting on all of your Apple devices to use proxy emails for everything,
Mhm.
so you don't have to actually give your Apple ID to all of these
That's
devices.
cool. And then there was also I did this for my business at one point, but I used Google Voice, so you can just get a random phone number that will link to yours, but they won't actually ever see your actual number. I think that's kind of useful too
Yeah,
in some cases.
that is actually really useful. A lot of other things are also there. You can use like different emails for different things. If you don't want to mess with temporary emails, you can use different emails for like, okay, I know this site is going to be sketchy. Let's use my temporary email for this. Like I have an email that is just for the spam things. So
Mm.
probably use that, which doesn't have any details. Fill it with random data. Like make yourself anything you want. use an
Yeah.
email and just use it for spam. That's probably the best way to go about it. Even in two-factor authentication, I would suggest using TOPA app, TOPA or TOAP TOP app. Okay, that's a very good way of avoiding data breaches. But the thing you have to remember is never delete that app if you don't have the recovery keys to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Google Authenticator, okay, or Microsoft Authenticator apps. Okay, so I would suggest use Google Authenticator because it recently got a long overdue update of syncing your backup codes to cloud. So what it does is even if your phone is offline, you have to do two-factor authentication, it just generates new codes every 1 minute. So every 60 seconds it generates 6 digit code, and almost all of the services support this.
Mm-hmm.
So even your Google services now they are moving to passkeys. So the devices that have like fingerprint or Face ID or something like that, even your Windows Hello will work with passkeys. Try to shift your accounts to passkeys. Passkeys. That's why I said that use single sign-ons like the sign in with Google, because then you can use your Google passkey to sign in with your account rather than even giving any password at all. Not even a session token, just a passkey.
For sharing that advice. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate having that level of security knowledge too, and just expanding people's knowledge when it comes to that on the show. One last question before we wrap up here. What's next for you on your journey?
Well, next for me is I'm going to do a PhD in AI and ML technologies. Currently, I'm working with two of the universities right now. Like I'm working with the university that I studied my masters in. I'm also pursuing like different things, and like I'm trying to reach out to different universities for for my PhDs.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see where my PhD happens, but it's probably in Ireland or in India. I don't know right
Come to the
now
U.S.
where. Oh, that's too far. Honestly, that's too
Okay.
far. So for India, it's like all 18 hours of flight. For India, I'm gonna have like 2 days to come from India to the US. It's
Mhm.
crazy. It's too far away.
Okay, fair enough. But all right. Well, once again, this is Dustin PolyInnovator and Puranjay on the Polymath PolyCast. Thank you for coming on again.
Thank you for having me.